Ready to roll?
Let's do it.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What this podcast is about is bringing individuals from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their stories, their journeys, the ins and outs, the in-betweens, and everything through that. So, yeah, that's what we do. We dive into all different topics, all different subjects, and we just get a wide view on just different people and connect with them through their stories and their experiences. And we take it in depth. So nothing's off the table. So yeah, but today we're doing that, but with me. So we got Dr.G back. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here, man. Always love it.
Yeah, love having you, man. It's a pleasure. It's always a good time, always good conversation. I just enjoy your company. But yeah, so he's back for the, third time?
Fourth.
Yeah, we got part 1 and 2 of his story. He hosted recently part 1 of my story, and then we're hitting up part 2 of my story. Mm-hmm. So this one will be out. Well, I mean, it's out whenever you're hearing this. Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to start rocking and rolling. He's interviewing me again. Hopefully we get everything in this one. Hey, worst case, you're not far. We can do a part 3 if we have to.
I drive past here twice every day, so going to work and coming home, man.
It works out, man. So,
I do want to hit a bunch of stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, and if you're wondering who I am, 86, 88, watch those episodes, but definitely go back and watch Joe's part 1 with us. Is that 90? I think it's 90 or 91 episode number.
I always lose track, man.
So, last time we talked about, you growing up, your childhood and stuff, and sports and your family, and the whole, part of growing up and your journey, and military. We got into the military stuff. And, And kind of where we left off was
post-military.
Post-military, coming out of the military. And so one thing I want to talk about, after military, you done some traveling.
Yeah. So I had I got a job through my cousin, this company in Nashville, doing book tours for like high-profile authors. So I would basically travel with these authors, and they do book signings, and I'd be like kind of coordinating and just a part of all that. People just assume I was security, I guess you could say that.
Yeah,
but
muscle.
Yeah, but so for example, Ben Carson, I was on a tour with him and his wife, and that was when he was running he was a presidential candidate.
Oh, wow.
So I'm on this tour bus with Ben Carson. He's right next to me on this bus, like on a live with Fox News. Yeah. And here I am. I'm just out of the military. I'm like, this is a pretty cool gig. And we'd pull up to a Barnes & Noble or something somewhere, and there's just thousands of people. I mean, we're like celebrities. I was like, dang.
Did you ever try to sneak in behind him on cam while he's on Fox News?
Nah, they made us they kind of put, they were like, you can't be right next to him. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, they're doing the bunny.
I'm like, what's up? Get Ben Carson.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. I did, Governor Abbott of Texas. I traveled around with them, and even did like a Trump one, but he wasn't with us.
Oh, gotcha.
But of course, like the bus was wrapped with Trump stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a job. And dude, you should have seen it. People were driving by on the highway, like flipping us off, throwing things.
Getting hoots and honks or flipping off and throwing stuff. So y'all got a lot of attention.
Yeah, we're putting his book out there. We're up in Wisconsin, and I forget which city's up there, but a lot of people didn't like them. And people were just coming up cussing at me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just selling books.
I'm on the bus. yeah,
I'm on the bus, guys. But it was, it was a cool experience, just right off the bat, getting to travel around, and it paid really well.
All over the states.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be on that bus for 10 or so days and stay in hotels, and but everything was covered. Good paycheck. Cool. I was like, that's a good gig. And then started school at MTSU. Mm-hmm. I think I told you I met a girl. I was dating this girl for a little bit, and that went downhill after less than a year. And this was in 2016. And so after that ended, my buddy Kyle Pruitt hit me up. He's like, Joe, you want to go to Southeast Asia for a while. And I was like, well, dude, I just started school. I'm on a good path. Like, I need to focus.
Like just out of the blue. Hey, you want to
Yeah.
go to Asia?
And I'm like, yeah, man. And I'm like, I'm just like, I'm in a new chapter of my life. And he's like, well, think about it. And I'm like, okay. So I think like a week goes by and I'm like, dude, yeah, let's do this. So, and I
planted that seed.
Yeah, planted that seed. And I was like, dude, I started thinking about it. I was like, bro, like I got an opportunity here to just travel the world. Like,
yeah.
I don't have a relationship. I have no other responsibility. I don't have rent because I'd moved in with my parents for that time when I got out. So I didn't have like bills.
Yeah.
My car at the time, I believe, was paid off. And so I was just like, why the hell not? All I had was my motorcycle. And, yeah. And then, so December, like pretty much basically New Year's Eve, the day before that of 2016, yeah, he and I just hopped on a plane, and next thing you know, I was on a flight to Hong Kong.
Wow. For us that suck at geography, Southeast Asia, where all did you go? Like what countries? Hong Kong's where you started?
Yeah, so Hong Kong, we were just there that was kind of like our starting point. We were there for just a handful of days. Got in at like 3 a.m. Couldn't check in the hotel, so we left our stuff there and hiked up this mountain there called Mount Victoria. It's like right in the town. So we just walked and hiked up it, got some really cool photos. And we were there the next day. We ended up sleeping like the whole next day, but then celebrated New Year's Eve there, which technically was our New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And we were in like the old China kind of district. It's like there's two sides of Hong Kong. It's like where it's old school Chinese, and then it's super Western on the other side, and like bougie as shit, and there's clubs and there's fancy cars. But like you see that stuff in the States. Like I wanted to hang out in that district. So eating random things, I don't even know what it was, but it was cool, and just watching the people. And then from there we went to Vietnam, and then we went to Cambodia, and then Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Bali.
How long were you gone in total from here?
I gotta say, it's hard. I forget. It was like 3 or 4 months. Yeah, about 4 months, I'd say.
No plan really, just like let's go, and then kind of make plans.
Kind of had a plan because he had to get back to work after a certain amount of time, like 5 weeks or so. Excuse me. Energy drinks, man.
Gotta get it down.
All that carbonation. So he had to get back to work, and I was planning on, I don't know, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I was like, as the trip progressed, I was like, I'm going to stay longer than that. I mean, I'm here. So spent a few days in Hong Kong, went down to Vietnam. I think we flew into Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi, one of them. And it's funny. I'll never forget. We were going through customs, and the lady's like looking at me all weird. And then like I get down almost out of the airport, and this little Vietnamese lady's like, "Sir," like yelling at me, flagging me down. I'm like, "Shit." She's like, "Passport," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And she's just like, "Okay." And I was just like, "Fuck, man, I'm already about to get locked up."
Yeah. Most places English wasn't the main language, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing about English, though. It's understood mostly everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can get by with it, you know? And even if you try to, like, make an accent and, like, they can understand it. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't overly difficult to communicate. But spent a couple weeks in Vietnam. We ended up hooking up with our hostel and going to this island. And it was really cool. We stayed at like this little resort, and they had all kinds of things going on. They took us like on a boat, and they took us to another part of the island where all these hills were, and we got to hike to the top of some mountain there, just like check out all the scenery. It was beautiful. Spent like 5 days there. Got back to the main part of Vietnam, and spent a handful of days there still. And just kind of checked everything out. Partied with a bunch of people, met a bunch of different people. The hostels are really cool. People think hostel, they think of like the movie Hostel.
Yeah.
No, the hostels are insanely badass over there.
Yeah.
Like they build them up, and there's just so many people staying at them. They all have like bars attached to them, like really good food. And so, and we stayed at hostels every day, you know, and then you're talking anywhere from like $4 a night to $10 a night.
Dang, yeah.
You know, and so it's super cheap.
Yeah.
And the food's amazing. And yeah, so we spent some time in Vietnam and then caught a bus to Cambodia.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that blows my mind. One reason I want to talk about that, so, you know, working in a college, so only some students study abroad, you know, and go live in another country, like Sandra, Japan for a year, Brazil for half a year. But people like me's never left the States.
Yeah.
You know, and most people don't get to travel the world or go, and I think there's a courage factor there, you know, like some people don't want to get out of their comfort zone.
Well, yeah, you know, I had people, I'd go to the gym, people like, you're going to go over there? They're like, what the hell? You're going to get killed or kidnapped? And I'm like, it's okay. It's not that crazy.
Yeah.
You know, people are like freaking out. They can't
yeah.
They're mind blown that I'm going across the world just with a backpack. And I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna research. I mean, it's going to be different, but hell. No, go ahead.
That's what interests me, like, especially if you said Hong Kong. I bet they're like, you're going to China.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Chinese prison. That's what they're thinking.
No, it's super laid back, man. It's honestly, I feel like safer just in the random streets there that I've never been.
Yeah.
Then I do feel like certain parts of America, a lot of parts of America, you know. And yeah, and like I'll condense it a little bit more because I got to do a whole podcast about Southeast Asia. But just to go brush over it, yeah, went to Cambodia. I think highlights there was checking out Angkor Wat, those giant temples, these ancient temples that are just massive. You know, they even like filmed Tomb Raider at one of the temples there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and but checking out Angkor Wat temples, I can show you some photos from there, and just seeing this ancient civilization and just like what was there at that time. And then even we paid some guy to come pick us up from our hostel, take us like an hour away, and he took us through the woods, and then we shot like rocket launchers and stuff.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I got to shoot rocket launchers, like Rambo machine guns.
RPG rocket or those big square
RPG
ones?
like over your shoulder.
Wow.
Grenade launchers, all kinds of stuff. So I got to do all that, and they were feeding us beers the whole time too. So I had like a nice buzz, and I'm just like, you know,
beer and RPGs.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah, no, it was badass. And then, but like that day we went to the killing fields. So I don't know if you know about like the war out there.
The Cambodia?
Cambodia, like the Pol Pot regime and stuff like that. They had these killing fields, and I can go into the whole history of that. It's actually super interesting. I don't
well, I would have been killed. Anyone with a doctorate, anyone that wore glasses.
Yeah, anyone educated.
Might be smart.
Yeah.
They brutally murdered and hunted down.
Yeah, they even had like a tree where they had like slung babies against and killed them. So they had decorations all over this tree, and you go and there's like this big tower stacked with the skulls of like the victims there. That was a very sobering, you know, it was weird because we went from like blowing shit up to like that, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty sobering experience here,
where people were blown up. And that's one thing. Before we jump into your rec real quick, because I want people to know, you know, kind of where all this comes from. But like, I was wondering if, you know, it kind of changed who you are, shaped your outlook, or if you learned things from traveling overseas.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I partied a lot. I mean, it's so easy to do there. Alcohol is cheap, you know, but I experienced a lot of different things. You know, I got to like see things like that and learn some history, but also just interacting with the different cultures. They're all very similar, but they're all different as well. Yeah. And how, you know, these different countries do things. And, you know, just going down to Thailand, you know, I went to Thailand. I spent a month in Thailand. Wow. Went to Bangkok, you know, went to a ping pong show one night. I wouldn't suggest that for a lot of people. Yeah. That was an experience in itself. Just look up ping pong show. It's probably accurate on Google. Yeah. Pretty.
I thought you meant a ping pong match.
No, this is like ping pong show. This is in like the underground, you know. Yeah, some Irish girls are like cracking on me because I didn't want to go, and they were calling me a bitch and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm going now.
Gotta go.
But yeah, so and then I went to like all the islands down there. Spent a lot of time in South Thailand. Got my diving license down there. Yeah. So I did a bunch of diving. I spent like a week diving. down in Koh Tao, Koh PP. I had a boxing match. I got knocked out in.
Oh, hey, talk about the boxing
Oh yeah,
a little bit, like, because I don't know if people know that you're a boxer. Not maybe not everyone.
I boxed on and off since like high school, but I got out there in Thailand, and my buddy got me nice and drunk, and I'm drinking buckets. It's a thing. You just get a bucket of alcohol, and yeah, we were at this bar called the Reggae Bar. And he was like, Joe, get up there and do it. And I'm already like blackout. You know, I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, okay. And I get up there and I'm just like this very arrogant American.
yeah,
Yeah, America, yeah.
Oh,
Like flexing and
America.
stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a dude from Kazakhstan and that I went up against. And I don't know, I'm just like wailing on him. He just hits me in the side of the head and I just went down. I got knocked out. So,
KO.
yeah, that was kind of embarrassing. I was the next day. I was like, "Hey, let's go to the next island, please. I can't be seen."
I need a different city. 'Cause
Yeah.
people know me now
Yeah,
as that guy.
and it's a very small island. And then went to Koh Tao, did the diving, Koh Phangan, did some really cool stuff there. Back to Bangkok. At this point, Kyle had come back to the States, and then I met this dude Troy, good friend of mine, from Connecticut, on a little booze cruise. And so we just traveled together through the rest of it. And
Yeah.
we went to North Thailand in the mountains, and the culture is so much different there. Checked out a bunch of stuff in North Thailand. And then caught a flight over to Malaysia. That was cool. Spent a few days there. Then went over to Singapore. Very different. Went to like Universal Studios and stuff. It's very
Yeah.
westernized. It's super,
Yeah.
a lot of wealth there. So it's just, it's built up. It's not as third world like the rest of them. And then, I guess you consider them third world. I don't know. It's just different. A lot
Yeah.
more poverty and stuff, but the people are happier. That was one thing that stuck out to me, is like just the simplicity, and the people were just really cool, laid back and happy,
Yeah.
as opposed to like here. And I'm like, man, we have so much to be grateful for. And people take it for granted. We could go to
Yeah.
school for free if we, in some way. We can do all these different things, yet we bitch and complain about
Yeah.
the littlest stuff, when there's people across the world that have so much less and they're completely happy. That was a huge perspective shift for me.
Yeah.
So
I was wondering that because, to be honest, I told you about Sandra, Japan, Brazil. I didn't even go, but I've learned and grown a lot from what she's told me about the travels and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know, like, even if when times are bad here and, people just unhappy and things like that, but we do have it pretty good even in our tough times as compared.
oh yeah, we've got it made, man. And yeah, and then so did that, and then went to Bali, spent like a month in Bali, man. So did a bunch of stuff around there. Went to Central Bali, checked out some badass temples, and man, I don't know. It's just, I could go into so many details and probably talk about that trip for a solid couple hours. And afterward, I'm probably going to be like, damn it, why didn't I bring that up? But at the end of the day, it was like one of the greatest things I've ever done. I'd suggest like anybody that's young.
That was my last question. Would you suggest pre-college, post-college, sometime traveling, seeing other cultures, countries?
Pre-college, in the middle of college, you can always start back, or at the end.
Yeah.
I'd say everybody should take the opportunity to go travel and experience some stuff. I mean, people talk about retirement. Guess what? That's not guaranteed. I almost died
Yeah.
at 28. So the future's not promised.
Yeah.
So especially while you're young, and, if I retire and I'm like 65, 70-year-old dude, I'm not going to be staying in hostels with a bunch of like 19-year-old people. Like people will be like, dude, this guy's weird.
Can you enjoy it? Can you hike up a mountain?
Yeah, can you do all those
at that
things?
age?
Yeah, and it's just a totally different experience. I think I would highly suggest, even if my daughter wanted to, yeah, I'd be a little nervous because it's my girl, But if she was like, Dad, I want to go travel the world for a little bit, I'd be so supportive, because, I mean, that's what life is, and the experience, and you need to maximize it. So that was, I highly suggest it for anybody that's considering. This episode is brought to you by Middle Tennessee Detail Service. Guys, this is the premier vehicle detail service in Middle Tennessee, in Murfreesboro, the number one you can find. I've seen them detail tanks. I've seen them detail airplanes, submarines, everything you could think of is detailed. They can even ceramic coat it. They do undercarriage. They do window tint. They do pretty much anything that you need to get your vehicle on point. Check them out at Middle Tennessee Detail Service LLC on Facebook and Instagram. Search Middle Tennessee Detail Service on the internet, Google, and look at the list of services they have. They'll take care of you, and just some of the best guys I know around. So check them out. Thanks. This episode is also brought to you by Volunteer Fleet Services. Do you have diesel trucks? And I'm not talking no lifted pretty things. I'm talking heavy duty trucks that move weight, haul trailers, and they need fixing. Look no further, guys. Volunteer Fleet Services is the #1 spot around. I know this because I literally work right next to them, and they can fix anything. Bring your diesels in. They'll get you squared away so that way you can get to hauling on the road, doing what you need to do. Check out my boy Greg Anderson and go to volunteerfleetservices.com today, because there's got to be somebody out there that listens to this that is a hauling man or lady. Thanks.
So yeah, and one thing just to throw in there, I met you 2018. You're in my class, I believe, but talk about the wreck. Walk me through the accident.
Okay, yeah. So I had the Asia experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I mean, if anybody wants to hear more about that, reach out. But beautiful time. Came back in almost mid or early 2017, that spring, and started school. And I had a roommate at the time. Kind of started spiraling out of control. We just partied a lot, man. That was just a crazy time in my life. Kind of started having reflections of the guy that was on pills.
Yeah.
But it was a different route, the more stimulant side of things.
Negative habits.
Yeah.
Is this the biker world time?
Yeah, this is like in the motorcycle club time,
yeah.
So I got a little while with that. I don't want to go
the outlaw lifestyle, Joe.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too much in detail with that, but yeah, it was just chaotic, man. It was just a lot of late nights, a lot of fights, a lot of different things. It was just a lot of chaos going on, and I got back with the goal to pursue school again and just get on track. Okay, like I got to travel. I want to succeed in life, so I was trying to get there, but I got distracted by
other things.
Just living a wild lifestyle, man, going crazy.
Embrace the outlaw life. Have you seen True Detective? I gotta ask.
No.
Dude, great show.
I'll check it out. I've had a few people tell me to check it out.
So, I'm picturing that biker scene, Texas Biker Club, aka gang, and they're outlaws, man.
I'll have to check that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Good show. Season 1's good.
Okay, I'll check it out because I've had a few people tell me to. But yeah, it was a crazy time. Raised a lot of hell. I had fun, it was an experience. But things were just kind of spiraling out of control. My focus wasn't there. I was managing at a gym at the time. And then I met a woman shortly after. Moved in with her. I was with her for a while actually, and we lived in Hermitage, Tennessee, which isn't too far from here, about 45 minutes from where we're at now. And still had my bike and whatnot. Let's see. So I'm just trying to gain track of where I'm at. So that was moving into 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were together, lived with her, going through school, going through life, trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my school path. I was just kind of all over the place. But I narrowed it down to exercise science. I was like, well, I know fitness. I'm going to stick with that and then go PT eventually. And I was just trying to live like a smart lifestyle. Like I was trying to pursue what made sense, which is smart, like asking for advice. Like, hey, what should I do with my life? Is this a smart? Is this secure? And really trying to fit a mold for somebody else's
plan or society's plan.
Yeah. And the person I was with is trying to be like, I don't know what they wanted in a way. And rather than just like put myself first and be like, well, let's pursue what's best for Joe and then, find that right person after. But different seasons, you know. I was just a different person then. And then, yeah, so end of 2018, you know, I just had this huge awakening, like spiritually, you know, found my spiritual path, you know, started diving into paganism hard.
Yeah.
And really found my way there. Went to this big ritual weekend, hours and hours away, rode my motorcycle out, got back. And then a month later, I have class with you.
Yeah.
So this is October 18th, 2018. I woke up that morning. I got on my, I took a picture on Instagram of my motorcycle, and it was pretty chilly. I was in its 40s that morning. And I drive down the interstate and stuff. I was like, that's going to be cold shit, but worth it. And I took a little video, and I was like, not a good idea, or like, this is a bad idea, or something like that, which is really eerie to think about. And got to school, went to class, and after your class, you let us out early, which led to a car hitting me, just saying.
My fault. We've decided that.
Yeah.
Oh,
if I would have stayed in class the
100%.
full time, definitely, you know.
If I would have kept you 5 more minutes, you know.
I think, though, that's fate, man. I think something would have happened regardless, truly.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so thanks.
Yeah,
you just made it happen that way. So,
but explain like the wreck, because it involved another vehicle. It wasn't just you off the road, or
so I get to I leave class, and I'm cruising around town, and I'm over off of Cason Lane in Murfreesboro, right by Cason, head towards Cason Academy.
Yeah,
there's an elementary school there, residential area, and I'm, you know, like one of the only times I'm going the speed limit. I'm just cruising in a 35, going 35, and I had these big old apes on my bike, and I'm going, then my arms are like up here.
That's all.
And I'm just cruising through. And I get to this light at that intersection where the school's at, and I look to the left of me, and I just see this car probably 20, 30 feet away. And I remember just looking at it, and I was just like, fuck. And immediately my brain shut off. I mean, it was just like, hey, we're shutting down. And what had happened was we hit corner to corner. I fishtailed into the side of this vehicle, flopped over into the windshield, and then it threw me 90 feet through the air into a field. So the car like spun around, I guess, there and hit like the curb. My motorcycle went down through the intersection about 100 feet underneath another vehicle, and then I landed over here 90 feet away in a field.
You mentioned in my episode flying 90 feet like Superman or whatever, and I didn't know you hit the windshield. So you went from motorcycle to windshield to 90 feet into a field?
Yeah, like, so we hit the corner, and I like fishtailed, boom, got smashed into the side of the car, then flew over into the windshield and just got launched.
Yeah, which that's just insane trying to picture that. And
I know, I wish there was a video.
Was they, boom,
I know, I'd be like,
ricocheted off.
I'd like send it to...
Was it like, did they run a red light or...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what happened was she ran a red light. She said she was looking in her rear view to see if her husband was behind her. He was following her to lunch or something. And, you know, next thing you know, there's a body in her windshield, which is crazy.
Anything happened to them?
So, no, they were fine. You know, long story short, they're actually, I've got a cool, I don't have like a relationship with them, but after the fact, after like lawsuit and all that stuff, I mean, yeah, I've had lunch with them and stuff like that, her and her husband. You know, it was an accident, man. I've by accident run lights before in my life. Yeah. You know, and like I just was fortunate enough that there wasn't another vehicle or person there or something for me to hit. Yeah. I've been able to just go through.
Man, people can learn so much from that.
Yeah, dude, because it's like, man, I got to put myself in other people's shoes. Like, she wasn't intentionally trying to hit me. And so if I was to be pissed at her, like, oh my God, you ruined my life. Like what good is that going to do for me? Yeah. You know? So just like forgive and be understanding, put yourself in, I'm a big believer in like every situation. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. Yeah. Sometimes I put myself in their shoes and I'm like, still doesn't make any sense. They're just an asshole. But she didn't purposely try to hit me. You know, she has a son that isn't in the military. also rides motorcycles,
Yeah.
closer in age, a little bit younger, I think. And so, like, it probably hit home with her big time.
Oh, she probably felt horrible, man.
Yeah, she did. I mean, I remember talking to her at depositions and stuff. I mean, she was, like, heartbroken, you know? And so, like, why would I make her feel worse?
One thing I wanted to ask you, talking about my wreck, 24 years, I was going to say celebrated.
Oh, you just had your
24-year one. And so I know what it's like to live with me making a mistake or my own stupidity causing a wreck. So I was wondering, with all the injuries and almost dying, what it's like when you're doing the right thing and fate, life, just someone else makes a small mistake, which leads to, all this stuff that me and you've been gone through. Like I have myself to blame, but I know some other people quadded due to other people. And I know there's a lot of resentment.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's hard to have any resentment towards that. I mean, obviously I wasn't quadded either,
Yeah.
like, I'm able to bounce back almost fully healthy. I'm very fortunate for that, and regardless, whatever situation in life that was to come, like, I'd have to live with it regardless, and re-gear my mindset. I think that's the only way you can go forward.
That attitude
is if you just had that switch,
Saying I've ran a red light before, like, we all have.
Yeah.
The way you're thinking about it, man, I feel like if more people done that, it's very productive.
Yeah.
What would you gain from just stewing, sitting there like, you ruined my life, and just dwelling in that, letting it fester.
Yeah, man. And and I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I said, I woke up in the hospital. I was like, this was meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I don't know. I can't let things fester or dwell in it. I've got anger issues, and I've been, I'm working with my therapist on, like, my anger.
Yeah.
And I let a lot of people occupy space up here, which is not good. Mm-hmm. And I know this. And people are like, let it go, Joe. And I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's so fucking hard for me to do. But I've recently figured out where that anger stems from. Yeah. And so now it's like correcting that, then, like, working on shedding that other stuff. It's the same kind of concept, man. Just kind of recognizing
and feeling it through. Are you a positive guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Positive thinking.
For sure. But I do get wound up pretty easily. I'm like, fuck that. And then, it's usually a quick bounce back. And I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Well, we talked about last time the importance of feeling your feelings, if you weren't. So it's okay to get angry, man, and think stuff through, work stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, and with the accident too, like, I'll have to accept it. There's one thing that was made me feel pretty rough for a while. But at the time, like, I was going somewhere I shouldn't have been, like I was 1 foot out of the door in my relationship at the time. I was 1 foot out of the door several times, and, I had to kind of reconnect with somebody, and I was going to stop by and say, what's up? I wasn't expecting anything going on, but I was just like, screw it, dude. I'm tour riding.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to go say what's up to this girl. And that was one thing that really bothered me. So I was really accepting of, like, the consequence, like, okay, this is what happened. Like, I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to use this. But I had a really hard time coping with the fact that, like, I felt like it was my fault. Like, fate was forcing me to, like, pay this.
Because you were going to do something that could end up in maybe something you shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah, it was like, I had a lot of guilt built up, man.
Heavy.
Yeah, I remember going to a therapist, and I wouldn't really talk about that. And then she made me go write the whole day down, that whole morning. And I read it to her, and I just started bawling my eyes out. And I was like, it's my fault. I'm a piece of shit. And she was like, Joe, with what you believe in, you understand fate and, like, karma and these things. She's like, but do you really think, like, that's a reason for you to get almost killed?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no. She's like, exactly. And, that was, I just kind of had to accept it, like, damn, okay.
That's what I was going to ask.
These were going to be, and that's when it switched. I was like, you know what? This situation was going to arise in my life at some point regardless.
Yeah.
And so I just had to own it, and that's what I did. And so, but that was, like, I think, a tough mental block for sure, but move forward from that, Yeah.
Yeah. And I know faith's extremely important, with spirituality and religion and beliefs and stuff, but kind of accepting that it wasn't your fault, it can be fate for other reasons than you were going to do, something maybe.
Yeah.
And kind of accepting that.
I think
Not your fault, man.
No, exactly, man. I think it was like really it happened to get me on the path, on like a self-sacrificing like service path that's dedicated to making an impact.
Yeah.
You know, rather than trying to like please other people or do what's smart, it's like, hey, this is going to force you into a position to like, one, overcome this and become the best you can, but also utilize this opportunity to help others. And that's what it's all about, you know? And I don't know if you want me to go into details of like that accident and stuff after like flying, but
I was going to ask, we hit the windshield, we fly 90 feet. Like, what did you hurt? You know, what'd the doctor say?
so I woke up in that field and I looked down and I saw my left femur sticking out of my leg.
Oh, damn.
And I just put my head back. I was like, shit, man.
I'd pass out.
Oh, man. I couldn't pass out because my adrenaline was pumping so fast. And also like, it didn't seem real.
Yeah. Oh.
I didn't feel a thing, so I was just like, shit. And as the cop comes up, he's like, hey, man, you were in a bad accident. I was like, well, shit. So all these things are going on around me, and you know, it's cool that officer actually, he's a Marine, and he was the SRO officer there, so he was actually getting something out of his car, and he heard the accident, so he ran over without a radio or anything, and but he had recognized my chest was soft. So he called a life flight. That's why they life flighted me. And it's crazy to think if someone wasn't, like, it was someone that responded that wasn't as competent.
Yeah.
Had they not called a life flight, like I'd be dead, you know? And I remember going, as soon as I could walk again, I went to the school and I went to his office and I just was like, I hugged him. I started crying. I was just like, thank you, man. You know, that was like because like, dude, that guy was like a savior to me in a way. Like, I mean, I think like there's a lot of people that aren't the best at their job and maybe wouldn't have recognized that and I wouldn't be here. So I owe him big time. That's something that was a very emotional experience, but
that's awesome.
I don't stay in touch with him really, but like that dude's forever got like my gratitude.
You said your piece. It's cool you went, and they probably don't get thanked a whole lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sounds like the creek. You remember how I said I landed on my back, and if I would have just landed on my stomach, I would have drowned and died. And you did all this crazy flying and hitting windshield. You John Wick style, you're ricocheting around.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was one of those little bitty things that was the huge thing.
Oh yeah, without
the soft chest.
Yep. And and so shout out Officer Larry Maples. He might be retired now, but Larry Maples, you're the man.
Rock
Thank
star.
you.
Heck yeah.
And so yeah, all this chaos is going on. They load me up on the stretcher. Life Flight gets there, load me up, and I was just like, "Am I gonna die or something like that?" They're like, "Sir, we're gonna try to keep that from happening." And that's when it got real. I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
Man,
and dude, that's when I started to feel something, but it was more just like a rush. It's that full body chill you get from head to toe, and I was just like, "Okay, this is it. This could be it."
When they say that, you are dying.
Yeah.
You know, like when those people are not saying, "Oh, you're fine."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so I got in this helicopter, man. I just closed my eyes. I was thinking about my family and stuff. And just a million thoughts were going through my head. I had this crazy little vision. And I woke up in the hospital, man. And, you know, from there, it was just learning what the doctors, all the surgeons came to me. And essentially, they were just all like, you should be dead, man. And one thing they did say, they were like, if you weren't in the shape you're in, you probably would. Chances are you would be.
Yeah.
For sure. But so I that's a big testimony right there, is taking care of yourself. But but yeah, so what had happened was, from the accident I acquired a TBI. I had an aortic aneurysm, which now I have a graft on my aorta that was bleeding into my right collapsed lung. I broke a few ribs. I lacerated like 6 organs, my adrenal gland, liver, kidney, spleen, like several more. So like the vital organs were lacerated, and I broke my hip in 3 places, had a puncture wound in my groin, like this far from my nuts, dude. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's like I got like a hole in my leg.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it's that far.
That's
Luckily,
one of
it
those
was
thankful things.
Yeah, it was a little chilly out. Plus, I had like tighter jeans on, so things were just like more secure. But yeah, I got punctured there.
Yeah, bag of shorts, you'd been screwed.
Yep, screwed. That'd be like can't. Yeah,
that's gotta be a grateful thing, you know. Like I've talked about, some people wish like, hey, I wish I was less paralyzed. I'm like, hey, I'm glad I'm not more paralyzed, and it was close, but it wasn't there. So thankful, I'm sure.
Exactly, and because I lost like half my blood through that hole. we don't know what stabbed me. And I got like really bad nerve damage in my right, like hamstring. And then, the left femur, right knee, tibia, fibula, both ankles crushed, feet crushed, all my toes crushed. So everything from my head down pretty much just jacked up. And so I don't know how I didn't have like a neck thing. Or
yeah. Damn. So
like a spinal thing. Yeah.
I couldn't pay attention and fully count, but I know I heard more than 15 things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The list was like that.
Golly, man.
My hospital bill was like $500,000.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. So lucky to you would have been dead if it hadn't been for the muscles. You know, those are our shields, and that is extremely important. Your body can protect you. It saved my life because I was a big buff dude once. And then the police officer, vet, saving you with that, recognizing how serious it was, and just a long list. Like, I think the accident and a couple of those are traumatic as is.
I mean, just like the aortic aneurysm itself, most people die from those, you know? So that's just crazy. Like you say that one, people are like, oh shit, you're still alive. And then, but then when you add the other things onto it, it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Something I've been wondering, and I know we've talked about your wreck before, you know, when you're going through therapy and stuff, but like, so all the organs, aneurysm, all the deadly stuff, you know, that stuff's deadly, but then like basically crushing everything. You're describing legs and bones and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What did the doctor say? You know, like what was the prognosis? Were they like, you'll heal in a couple months for sure, and you'll be fine and you'll walk again? Or were they like, we don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I was told I'd definitely walk again. Just really, it was like the bones had to heal. I couldn't walk for a few months just because, especially having crushed ankles and feet,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't bear weight on that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Had I not broken those, I probably would have been walking a lot sooner. But yeah, I couldn't bear weight on any of that, so just learning how to walk again was kind of crazy in itself.
What was there a promise you'd be walking as good as you are?
Honestly, I don't remember, only because like I already kind of tuned out any kind of like possibilities that certain things may not happen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Any naysay, yeah.
I think it just in my head from the get go, I was like, I'm gonna fucking barrel through this and like I'm gonna do more than I ever did, you know? And like that was just like my mindset. So I kind of just, anything that may have been said, like to re-gear that thought process, I just ignored
Tuned
it.
it
Yeah,
out.
it's like I tuned it out on purpose. I was just like, hey man, I'm gonna rock this shit.
Yeah, you didn't let anybody put limits on your recovery. You know, like you just had that goal in your head.
Yeah,
and that's what you focused on. Because I was wondering about that. Because you know, last time I'd seen you, you hobbled back in my class and you're on crutches. And in this podcast, people see you just sitting down. And so when I watched it, I want you to know, like, your wreck was so bad. 6 years later, we connect. I assume you're on crutches or braces or disabled more permanently. And so when you said you do boxing and stuff, I was picturing a guy with a crutch boxing.
I mean, hey,
Joe's a badass. He's out there with a walker beating the shit out of people. And then when I showed up, you're standing at my car. I didn't see you walk up. And I was like, damn, he's standing here. I don't see anything. And I was like, hey, walk around. Remember me saying that? And you done the boxing, jumping around thing. I was like, damn, man, you just worked his ass off to get back to, you know, near 100%. You said you can't sprint well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some like mechanical stuff as far as running goes. I just don't like that nerve damage so bad in my right hamstring that like, you know, I'm limited on like how much I can squat, and stuff like that. But that's like at the end of the day, that's not big of a deal. I just do the best I can. Honestly, I'm just proud of the fact that I do what I can.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that's just a little stuff, and you know, I think there's pain in my knees and stuff all the time. My arthritis is so bad. I'll probably end up getting knee replacements at some point, which is fine. You know, I know two guys have had them that are like killers. And
if anybody can come back from it, it's you.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so I'm just like, all right, maybe one day, but yeah, I think that's it, man. I think it's just, I don't know. it's crazy to look at all that, and I think that was like I was in that position at one point. But I'm like, dude, I'm extremely grateful for it, man. Like, I wouldn't change it if I could go back and choose to like not have to go through that. I would still choose to go through that.
Happened for a reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask is, a lot of people become addicts due to injuries and disability, and quadrism paralysis is a whole different thing. My traumatic near death thing is not feeling or having less feeling.
Yeah.
Yours is pain.
Yeah.
Like crushing everything. The fact that you're not like on a fentanyl patch or just addicted to opiates, like how managing the pain and stuff and overcoming that.
I mean, for a little bit, of course, like I got a Dilaudid IV hooked up to me.
Oh yeah, you had to have something.
I'm clicking
man.
that button like crazy.
Yeah,
I'm freaking out. They're giving me all these scans. I hated it. They wouldn't let me drink fluids because they needed to do so many scans, and I'm like having panic attacks in the freaking machines, and that was kind of difficult. And I can't do nothing. I can't just like get up and walk out. Like I'm like
couldn't walk at all.
It's like you got to do this. I'm like, but I think managing the pain though, like I felt it for a while. The legs would hurt at night, sleeping. I get these crazy headaches. They didn't figure out I had TBI until like I was in rehab hospital.
Oh really?
Yeah, and I was getting these like piercing headaches like through the night.
Had
like,
so much other stuff.
crying.
They were busy.
Yeah, I'd just be in tears like, oh my God, my head hurts so freaking bad. And they finally did like some more shit, and they were like, oh, you had a minor TBI. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense then. But they had me on some stuff there for a little bit, gabapentin too and other painkillers and whatnot. And eventually I was just like, dude, I hate this stuff.
That puts weight on.
I just flushed him down the toilet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have used it as an excuse to just be horrible and.
And then a lot of people do, and I think like I don't know. I think I already having experienced that kind of stuff and what it did to me.
Yeah.
Early on, I was just like, I don't want to fucking be that person.
Yeah, you'd already been through the pill game and stuff. I'm glad you mentioned the scans and machines because, this list of injuries, the pain, the physical's horrible, but a lot of people don't realize the mental's worth. So, like, you had to go through these scans, and I know you said it made you anxious. And when I had my second near death, the ulcer thing where I told you I had to go to Vanderbilt, the only space they had was in the burn unit. And so I was laying there literally smelling human flesh burning and hearing people burned from head to toe screaming and crying through the night. And I freaked out.
I would. That's gnarly as hell.
Yeah. And, you can't move. So I can't get up and walk around, walk it off. I just lay there, hear the screams, smell the burning skin. It was traumatizing. I won't forget it.
That sounds pretty freaking terrible, man. What a insane experience to have to go through there. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have to do that. I don't know. But
those machines though, the humming, just
mental. What's the one? Is the MRI CT that they did that's like tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
I think it's CT. I don't know. I think it's CT scans every year, like not every year.
Still.
For the rest of my life because I got the graft. And like I'm young to have it. Like the grafts are supposed to be really good. They're different than a stent, but also to get a graft in like your 20s is like not common.
Yeah.
So they're like, it should be good, but like we gotta do scans, So I go every few years to make sure it's like still where it's supposed to be. I remember asking the surgeon, I was like, so how on earth this graft is going bad? He's like, you'll have a heart attack. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, well, okay, let's avoid that.
Yeah. So let's do the check-in.
Yeah. And it sucks because I don't want to go too often because there's a lot of radiation over the years. But I'll do what I need to do. I don't want to freaking have a heart attack. So
doesn't it suck when you doing the x-rays and the scans and they're leaving the room, but they're like, oh, you'll be fine.
You're good. Yeah, you don't need anything else.
I'm like, where are you going?
Well, I got my last one. I didn't realize like how messed up it had me in the head, but like, yeah, I had to get one, last year, and man, they put me in there and I started like, my heart was pounding, dude. I started having kind of a panic attack because it put me back there. And I was like, holy shit, like, why do I feel this way? And I was like, it kind of put me back to that place. I was breathing all heavy, but I just toughed it out. But I hated it so bad. I was just like, I do not want to be in this freaking machine. But yeah, that's one of those things that just.
How'd you get over that? What'd you do in that moment to help people that have like panic attacks and stuff?
Well, as far as like dealing with it, like the I guess, the anxiety or like whatever panic or whatever feeling you feel like going in situations like that,
How
right?
do you calm yourself from spiraling even farther?
I think it's just, to me, it's just like, dude, it's going to be over.
Yeah.
Just reminding myself that it's not forever. I talk about psychedelics and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Going into a trip and like being in there.
Yeah.
Or like when I did ayahuasca.
Oh God.
In Costa Rica, and I was just like, dude, I was like, this is dark, man. This is freaking me out. I didn't like it for a while, and I was like, but I just remind myself, I can't not feel this way right now. Like, it's in me. I can't just turn it off. But at the end of the day, like, this isn't a forever thing. Like, this is going to work out of me. So,
it's not forever.
And it's the same thing, I apply, because that's like, you're stuck in that mindset for hours,
Oh, yeah.
that, your scan may last 10, 15, 30 minutes or whatever, but like, that's it. After that time, you're out of it. Yeah. It's not going to like eat me. But I think that's just like the thing. I mean, that's the only, I'm very like, my therapist says I'm very logical.
You are very logical.
So I'm like that makes the most sense. Like, hey, it's going to be over. That's like the only thing I do know.
Yeah, very logical. And yeah, that's really good advice, because a lot of things, especially those really urgent, horrible things like a panic attack or something like that, where our brain and, psychology tells us like, this is me now.
Yeah.
Like this pain and torment is lasting forever. Like,
yeah.
And so telling yourself, this isn't forever, I'll get through this will end in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Is a helpful way. I talked about the positive thinking thing and making things happen, the prophecy. And breathing's always a big one too.
Oh yeah, definitely breathe. Definitely got to breathe
when
it
you
out.
Panic, you forget to breathe.
Yeah.
And then your chest hurts more.
Focus on those deep breaths.
Muscles tense up. I think I talked about that in class a lot.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's my way of dealing with panic attacks, is breathing, flooding your brain and body with oxygen, getting that oxygen through the body.
Yeah, I'll do the exact same thing, man. That's a huge plus.
It's so easy, too.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah, it's simple.
Just, breathe and remind yourself it's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
You're out of it. You're almost out of it. And that's the thing, Yeah,
and that's cool, talking about the physical and the pain stuff. Were we talking about the drugs you kind of just...
Oh, well, I was just saying, because you were talking about people maybe spiraling out of control with that. Which is a very common thing, I think, after those situations. But I already had the kind of mindset of, like, I'm going to be better than this, so that didn't feed that. And I think another thing, too, is just surrounding myself by people that I don't know. I have a lot of people in my life that I respect.
Yeah.
And I want to keep their respect, as I hope they'd want to keep mine, right? And so it's just like, I've got to show them, like, hey, man, like, I live by what we talk about, what we preach. I want to set the example
of relentless pursuit.
Relentless pursuit or strength, or just the things we believe in, especially with like my spiritual beliefs, like what that embodies. And so to me, it was also like, well, I had no choice in a way. I kind of put myself in a situation or in a mindset to where, like, I have to do this. I have to become better. Like, there's no excuse, because I don't want to let myself down. I also don't want to let the people I care what think about me down either, and I want to, I don't know. I want to be better.
Is it ever wanting to impress? Like, I want to show them I can do this, because when you respect, like, say, parents or loved ones.
Yeah.
Like,
I think people take impressing wrong. Like, I want to make a positive impression. I don't do things just to impress others.
Not the showboating stuff.
Not the showboating stuff, but I think
to be like, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and then people like use it, but they also, and be someone that like also think, put myself in other shoes, like maybe they're going through some shit, and then they see your story or they saw my experience, and they're like, well, here I am coping this way, but like, look at Joe, look what he just went through. Like, I can do that too, like also forcing people to like believe in themselves a little bit more and not spiral out of control, know? So there's a lot of different things tied in together that help that mindset. And then with the drugs, I just, real quick, I didn't want to go back down that path. So I just dumped them down the toilet, man. I got rid of all of it. I was like, I don't even want to hear. I did, I went the more herbal route with things.
Yeah.
And that helped me get my appetite back. I was eating edibles and stuff. It helped me eat well. And yeah, eventually I just didn't have any of that stuff. So
That's good advice for people too, man.
yeah,
That or narcotics.
yeah.
Which one's safer, healthier, and less addictive, not addictive. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. One thing I know I've heard on a podcast. I was checking it out for when you invited me to come on. I know you've mentioned your mom to help with the name Relentless, but you were just talking about the story changing lives, like helping people.
Yeah.
I want to know, when did this come in your head? Like, I want you to explain, like, how the hell did you think up this podcast? What was your motivation? The moment you said, "Hey, I want to help others and bring on guests that have inspiring stories." Like, how do we get here?
So yeah, it's a pretty interesting journey itself. Progressing after that, I was still with my ex at the time. So we were going through our own things and trying to progress in life. I was, focused on school, but I didn't want to do at the time I was like, yeah, I'm done with school after my degree. I don't want to go do that. I don't want to be a physical therapist. I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to create something of my own. I knew that. And I was like, man, I know apparel. I've been involved with an apparel brand before. Like, I'm going to start an apparel brand that's like more of a flag, like a banner of like, hey, be relentless. And it stands for what I believe in, and use this story to put that out there, use my experience and something that's going to help push people to become the best version of themselves and like create impact. That's all I knew. I was like, I want to create that. And, going forward, I was like, I'm starting a brand. I finished school, but I'm starting a brand in the midst of it. And so I did that. I, spent some time coming up with a name. I'm not going to draw that out, but I knew I wanted Pursuit in there. And I was talking to my mom one day, and she was like, you're just so relentless. And I was like, that's it. And it clicked, Relentless Pursuit. And, I've got it trademarked and all that stuff. Worked on the logo, put a lot of thought into the logo and what it means. And a long story short, it's a combination of the Ouroboros, which is typically depicted by a serpent swallowing its tail, represents something infinite, something whole, but also needed a wolf in there because wolves are always in pursuit. So it's like an Ouroboros wolf to represent an infinite pursuit that never ends.
That's creative.
Yeah,
I like it.
Because it's like when people ask me, well, what's your goal with a relentless pursuit? I'm like, guess what? It like never ends. Like just to create a bigger and bigger impact and keep going. There's no end goal.
You got a right now goal, and you're gonna reach it, and it's gonna lead to another one, and just keep going.
I got goals, but like those are just steps to the next. You know what I'm saying? Like the next goal I get is only another step towards the next goal, and then the next goal, and some goals I don't even know of yet, but they're going to come up as things progress. And so that's what it's all about. And so that really a lot of intention there. And and then I got my first stuff of apparel, like my first apparel order in beginning of 2020, right before COVID, and started selling apparel out of the house, out of the guest bedroom, going to events, built up a team, bodybuilding events, all different kinds of stuff, marketing it like crazy. And all that. All this didn't come until like this idea. I think it was always there, as far as like bringing in the podcast like this.
Yeah.
But when I was with in that last relationship, I had just got in a house, had built a detached garage, and I was recording a podcast out there. I did like 3 episodes maybe. I think it was like 2. And that all fell apart right after like the second or third one. And I just wanted to start doing podcasts. It's funny going back to those. But, I didn't really have like an idea with it yet. I was like, all right, we're going to see what this becomes of this over time. I just know I wanted like people to share their story.
Yeah.
And I started with a couple of people I knew. And just progressing forward, that fell apart, moved to Murfreesboro, met the love of my life, beginning of 2022. I think 2022. I lose track of the years, man. Yeah, 2022. Yeah. Met Lydia, and man, I don't know. And then I was just like, dude, I've held myself back in the past with other people in my life. And, you know, not to like point at anybody, like I make my own choices, but I've allowed myself to be like when a lot of people use the excuse like, well, other people are holding me back, you know, this and that.
Yeah.
Well, you allow that. At the end of the day, like I accept the fact that like I allowed somebody else to hold me back from my dreams.
Yeah.
When in reality is like it's my choice to allow that or not.
Yeah.
Either they're with you or they're not. But if you've got a dream to achieve, it's not up to them to pursue it. It's up to you to pursue it. And so it's no one's fault but mine. But I think timing's everything. Just like when I met my wife, I met her at the right time in my life because that's why we do have such a beautiful relationship. So when I met her, I was like, man, this person believes in me right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so, right shortly thereafter, I was like, man, I need to live a life that represents what Relentless Pursuit is. Just the name. Relentless Pursuit's a heavy name. I was like, I need to live that. I need to put that out into the world. But I can't do it just selling T-shirts and hats and shit out of my guest bedroom. That's not Relentless Pursuit. It just wasn't to me. I could feel it. And I was like, it's time to level up. So I took everything I had and invested into this building and this space, and I believed in it. And I was like, I'm going to have a gym and trainers and all this stuff and a bunch of apparel and all these podcast guests coming in. I just invested it right off the bat. Man, it was crickets as far as like clients and shit goes for like 7 months, dude. It was just me in here. Like, and you're talking almost $5,000 in overhead. About, you know, I would say more than that. I don't want to get into the numbers, but yeah, just I'm doing it all. And I had like a couple clients, and I'm like, dude, everything in my bank account's just going. But I was like, it's going to work out. I believe in it. We're going to keep going. Stayed the course, kept recording episodes, you know, we're early on in there. And bringing in people I knew, getting connected with people I'd never met before, and just watching it slowly progress. And, you know, and then just really seeing like what it was becoming. Like, oh, dude, this is a really cool podcast, and people are just coming and sharing their stories. It's turned into what it has now. And then, you know, picking up more clients and just believing in it, and like seeing more clients come through the door. People like talk about me, and like, okay, I'm picking up these people.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, and then the opportunity, like, you know, all the interviews falling through as far as like getting trainers in here, but then an actual coach coming in and renting out the space, you know, just the end of last year. And now the massage therapists here and stuff. And we've seen this like evolution, but I mean, it was hard to see early on. I just knew it would happen.
Yeah.
And I just kept fucking working every day. And that's the thing. Things just evolve. You just got to stay true to the vision and keep going forward at all costs, you know?
Yeah. I am not business minded or business familiar, but I feel like 7 months is a while, and there's probably some that might have like thrown in the towel.
Oh, I'm telling you, there was points like at the end of that like at the end of 2022, where I would just like sit here and I'd just like have like an attack and just cry, and I'd be like, dude, Joe, what are you gonna do? And it would just be like a million things going through my head, and I just had no plan. I'm like, fuck, man. And, but I would just be like, I don't know. I'd always circle back around to the fact that like, hey, man, just keep going. I don't know. It's just simple. There's not any complex way of putting it like, oh, I don't got no freaking Remember the Titans speech.
Yeah.
It's just like, keep going forward, maintain your vision, and keep believing in what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's really all you have to have is persistence, drive, belief in yourself and what you do, and the ability to just maintain endurance and just keep rolling.
Yeah.
No matter what, but also being all in, understanding the fact that like there's no smart blueprint. Like there's people that go into businesses and they got this gray end financial plan and all that stuff, and like that's great. I think that's a plus, and it's been a harsh reality. And learning all that, but you learn as you go. But I know what I do have. I know where my strengths are, and that's just going forward and like drive and all those things I described. But I think the willingness to go all in, I think talking about it yesterday, that's the difference between like a business owner and an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like entrepreneurs, like true entrepreneurs, all the greats I've followed or listened to just had the willingness to like go all in and risk everything
Take that gamble.
in order to take it to the next level.
It takes a lot of, believing in yourself
Yeah.
and or what you're doing, yourself and what you're doing, the message behind it. I like keeping it simple, man, and pushing through. Life constantly throws obstacles at us, and some people don't do well with that. Like, oh, this, I'm a failure. This can't work. I can't do it. This isn't meant to be. It's too hard, whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of just, I'll find another thing.
Yep.
But no, your message of like push through it, stick with it it's huge because we're always going to have obstacles thrown at us.
Yeah, there always is. No matter even if you choose an easier path or more comfortable path, like there's still going to be shit thrown at you got to deal with.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, like maxing yourself out and pushing yourself to limits just makes the ability to handle other situations a little bit better.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I know what I'm capable of. That's nothing. But like even nowadays, people get comfortable. Then the slightest inconvenience becomes a mountain of things.
A big thing, yes.
There's so many different ways. It's all about perspective, and just like all you got to do is like switch how you view the thing. Whatever it is in front of you, just if it's fucking with you, all you got to do is just change how you look at it.
Yeah.
And that can change your life.
It sounds like mental toughness is just a huge thing.
Yeah, it's that fortitude. Yeah, that mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
You spelled it wrong. I think it's an F. I'm just kidding, man.
Wait, what? I'm like, what?
I've been meaning to crack that joke since I drove up in the parking lot. Like, I won't tell him he made a typo. But no, I think it looks cool. And I like that you have the matching gear to go along with stuff,
Yeah.
And so real creative, but mental toughness, like obviously, I mean, stacked like me over here with the guns and his buff. I mean, obviously physically tough and you're buff dude and train hard and you got your burpees going. But would you say mental toughness is as important or more important? Like what?
Well, I think your mind's going to lead it all. I think that's just going to bring the physical with it.
Yeah.
So I think that comes first for sure.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. And then the fire in your heart too.
Mind controls the body. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have that passion.
Yeah. Do what you love. We kind of talked about that a little last time. Sounds like you wanted to help people. You come from a place of wanting to help or inspire.
Yeah. I mean, I want to succeed and I want to obviously, on a material aspect, I'd like to gain, wealth and those aspects too. I mean, everybody does, but that's truth is that takes a lot of pressure off, but also it opens more doors. Like money can just only allow for me the opportunity to reach more people and make a bigger impact. Yeah. I'm going to take care of my family and enjoy things. I mean, I don't become obsessed with material stuff. I do like nice things, but it's not like the emphasis, right? Because if I don't have any of that, I'm still happy, and that's the thing is finding the joy in the shit that matters and then enjoying those things because you're able to do it. But, I think with the more growth on like, as far as the brand goes, it's just going to open more doors and more opportunity. And so, but just, that's what it's all about, man. Making impact bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And I got to commend you, man, because, like I like my comedy podcast, Conan O'Brien and like Dana Carvey stuff, but I don't know. I feel like there's endless podcasts of, whether it's political or whatever, like, hey, think like I think, but you're like, hey, I want a podcast to help people and inspire and people come on to tell stories.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool, like just out of the gate where you're coming from and your purpose.
Yeah. Well, because, by like expressing people's journeys, you're able to bring to life a lot of the internal things and memories and stuff, like without it getting political or anything. Because at the end of the day, like, sure, like you got a political podcast, that's great. But like that's stuff we're flooded with all the time anyways. It's like almost unavoidable. And it's all this, that's that external energy I don't like to like absorb,
oh, God.
So like there's those things that are just so so in your face, like that are unavoidable anyways. Like to me, just like politics, sports, and so on, things of that nature that like I don't want to hear about or like have any pay attention to because I'm going to like have to run into it at some point.
Yeah.
But like I don't know something about this person here. Like I want to know more about them and what's within them, you know. And then I hear like someone's story in their podcast, and every time afterward, my perspective has changed a little bit, and I've learned something, and it's got me emotional within in some way because I understand this thing about them, man, and that's just so beautiful. Even if it's just for me, like I freaking love it because I do this for me. I do this because I understand the impact it's had on me getting to have all these conversations, and I know it can have that impact on others. But at the end of the day, like I do it because I love it. I wouldn't change it because then it takes away from that. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, and doing it for you and your passion, though, is helping so many people because, you know, I hate politics stuff, man. Stay out as far as I can, but politics, religion, and then even on sports stuff, there's a lot of things that divide us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And where you're going, no matter what category you're in, these inspiring stories and just being a better person each day, that reaches everyone no matter what club they belong to.
Well, because none of that shit really matters, man. I think we're too I think we're too really overly affected by a lot of that. You know, it's like people, you know, there's a big topic like, you know, you got hate. And people are like, cancel this hate speech, these haters or whatever. Like, I don't know. You get what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It makes sense. People are just like, oh, don't hate me. Don't hate it. And they get so upset. And guess what? Here's the facts. If I walked out of my front door and there was 40 people standing out there and all they were doing was telling me how much they hated me, I'd just like be like, man, okay. And I'd get in my truck and fucking leave. It doesn't matter. You know, I don't care about that. And so people are really worried about what other people's thoughts are. Who cares? Whether they say it out loud or they keep it internal, they're still going to think it.
Yeah.
You know, even there's probably some people that are around you that probably hate you that'll never tell you. And they act like they don't hate you. They act like they like you.
Frenemies, go mean girls.
Yeah. So who gives a shit what people think about you? Yeah. And that's the thing right there. That's to me is very important. And I was talking to a client of mine, and he's just, we're a lot different. But we got a good relationship and we have great conversation. And I was like, dude, at the end of the day, like, you know, God, how did it go? Because it was a very good conversation. But I was like, you may have some things that you do in your life that I don't agree with. That's okay. I may have some things in my life that you don't agree with, viewpoints. I'm very strong and firm in my viewpoints on the world and just things I believe in.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay for me to feel that way and have my view, but I also can be open and understand to somebody else's viewpoint and their experience, because
you don't push yours and try to change others.
Because they're I mean, if they ask me for advice, it's mine. I'll give it. But like, I'm not going to try to change somebody because guess what? I don't understand your experiences. Yep. Your life is a compilation of your experiences, and that's why you are where you're at. My life is a compilation of mine. Nobody else can experience my life.
You are the expert on you.
Yeah.
And they are on them.
Yes. And all I do is like have people like I just put that out myself and I share my truth, which is for me only.
Yeah.
And whether you want to receive some of it, so be it. If you don't, if you hate me because of how it is, fine. I don't really care. I'm still going to have my heart's still where it's at. But like also bringing people on that are willing to share that and be vulnerable and authentic about theirs. And at the end of the day, we're shaking hands and we're talking about how much fun that was and how stoked we are to like meet up again, you know? So it's just cool, man. I get really passionate about it because I think there's so much division off of differences that really don't matter at all, man. Like there's a core things that we can come together on, and that's all we need.
Yeah. There's a really good quote. I forget, but like we're, you know, like 96%, like, you know, we spend mostly the same, and we have these little small differences that we spend so much time on, and you know, whether we're arguing, fighting, or even killing over, you know, but we have so much more in common than we think. And I always say, like, you know, where we come from and our differences can help other people.
Yeah.
For example, like with me, I'm just seeing the world literally at a different angle, down here on wheels.
Yeah.
And so just sharing stories, man, it's huge. And um, I don't know how we are on time and stuff, but like I know you had mentioned earlier, spirituality or religion. And so mental toughness, physical toughness, spiritual toughness is also what I'm hearing from your story.
Well, yeah, like my spiritual path, you've talked about it. I'm pagan, but I can break that down for people. Basically, I believe in the ways of my ancestors, like ancient old ways, keeping that alive, because that's in my blood. That's a part of who I am. It's a part of everybody has their ancestral beginnings.
Yeah.
So regardless of where they're at now, some point in their bloodline, their people that they stem from were connected to that, even if they don't agree with it. I mean, it's just the facts. Like we began somewhere. People believe in something different at some point. Over the thousands and thousands of years of
worshiping the sun
of humanity. Yes, I mean, and that's we still do that, sun worship and whatnot. And people have been looking to the stars since the very beginning. They didn't know what was going on. They're like, what's all this? And so, but without getting on a huge tangent about belief, all I know is that my heart is called to a certain path. It's called to down the wolf road, right? And it calls me to my ancestral beliefs, and that's what fuels the fire. That's what gives me passion. That's what pushes me to pursue righteousness and love and create art and make an impact on people. That's what I do know, and it makes me better. And I think that, I think without that spiritual aspect, it takes away purpose.
Yeah.
Because like my spiritual component gives me an eternal purpose. Like my daughter and my wife, like that gives me purpose for sure. But like on an eternal level, because I know after it's all said and done, when all this burns down eventually or it explodes, my soul's the only thing that carries on. This flesh, these tattoos don't mean a damn thing. None of this material shit does.
All the tats.
But I know this and here, that's what goes on eternally. So
that's what you focus on.
And that's and I know that's what's most important overall. Yeah. So I do everything to feed that.
Well, man, I love the outlook and motto and I don't know, values and stuff. And what I love the most, man, is just the openness. Like, hey, I believe what I believe. You believe what you believe. Without the trying to change the minds and control other people. Sounds like you focus on what you can control, which can help other people and stuff. You get all these guests from all over the place, right? Like, say, for example, me, and, we had talked a lot when you were in my class, especially after your wreck. And, of course, I never knew you were pagan until watching the podcast, And so, like, for example, people, I come in and then my group, my people, are watching this podcast for the first time because I'm on here, and you're getting people from all over doing that. And they hear the word pagan and maybe
the term pagan, right? It refers to like in Roman, like ancient Rome and stuff like that. Stems from a word, I think it's like paganus or whatever, but it basically referred to like the people outside of the city that lived on the outskirts, and essentially those that like believed in the old like gods or whatever. Yeah, because this is like basically a term given to them by Christian Rome, and so it essentially those are Indo-European peoples that believed in Indo-European ways, right? And so pagan is essentially like Indo-European beliefs. Everybody has pre-Christian beliefs. Every culture does. Right. And that's okay. That's part of our identity. It's part of like culture. And I just know like I always kind of had a pulling to that stuff, and I always found it very interesting. And so like that being said, the reason I bring the term up is because the word pagan has become so skewed. Like you Google it and it's like, oh, I do witchcraft, herbalic, this or that. And it's like, and they're using terms and different things that have nothing to do with like actual paganism. Yeah. So you just like grab that word and like using it for your own thing. And so people need to understand that like it's broad. You know, it means one thing, and that's the truth of it. That's where it stems from. But like anything, you know, people like to recreate terms to fit their agenda or whatever it is. So that's what paganism is. And there's just a negative viewpoint on it, man. You know, because it is ancestral, right? People just think it stands for certain things, or like maybe it displays hate, and you got guys that, or people that believe in it that may look a certain way or whatever.
Yeah.
And then people like to label it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we just learned in psychology and social psych about like prejudices and whatnot, and how people like come up with the idea for like grouping individuals.
Oh yeah.
But you're really grouping them off of like, okay, so you're grouping me in with a bunch of people that say the word pagan and they look like me or whatever. That's what your idea of it is.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I think a lot of people's assumptions are based off of headlines, and maybe some false ad they read, rather than experiencing or being around individuals that actually stand for what they believe in.
Yeah.
You know?
With disability, something I found out quickly and hate is assumptions. I think they're very they're bad. Like I'm like, hey, talk about it. You know, like if a stranger comes up and asks me a question, I'm fine with that. But just assuming I can't do things, or assuming, you know, because I'm physically disabled, I'm mentally disabled. I get that all the time. So that's why I like talking about this stuff. But with what you said, like the hate stuff, I think it's good to talk about because I didn't know about it. You know, I Googled it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what's this? Let me Google it. And some pretty scary stuff popped up at the beginning. And I was like, what? I know Joe to be a very nice, good man. And so I just started digging and reading, you know, and I got into like the anthropology, sociology shit where like people have done like hardcore studies.
Yeah.
You know, and then just where they found that is by far not the majority, you know.
Yeah.
And even talked about, I won't go too far into it, but I really went on a deep dive, man, because I love sociology type stuff anyways, and history and religion. But I found it came up real at the high on the top, and I dug into it. It's, you know, was just basically a minority population in that group that might have an agenda instead of being about the actual religion. And,
but every group has that population. That's the thing.
Everyone,
you know, anywhere you go, any belief systems, there's like a minority population that's like radical or fueled by like something that isn't necessarily the righteous way.
And
you know?
Yeah, and the actual religion, I read from one of the research articles, there'd been a disabled president, I don't know if it's called president, but leader of one of the pagan organizations, and a LGBTQ and different races and different sexes had been at the top, and they were like, hey, it's actually very inclusive. Like,
yeah, I mean, it just depends on like your viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
You know, like it depends. It gets really murky because like any belief system, people
different sects. And
there's
stuff.
different sects of it. I think you know, my crew, we're really about like, we are about like traditional values, masculinity, things of that nature, which often get a very negative viewpoint as well. You bring up masculinity, people think all these things. You bring up tradition, people are like, oh my God. But like, if people actually were around us and see that it's all stemmed in love, and like it's nothing but love when you are around us. And but we're also very like true to like our perception of it, like any belief system. But we're also, I think by nature, everybody that says they follow a certain thing, but they're in a church, right? Well, every church is doing something a little bit differently, or every organization or place of gathering.
Judging all based on one.
So in a way, you're creating your own myth to go tag along. Like, yeah, you may follow this. This may be your you may read this Bible and that maybe you're like, okay, that's the starting point. But like as you move forward and you create songs and you get together and you do different things and you interpret things differently, you're doing things your own way.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And so we also realize like, hey, this stuff is ancient. We're creating our own myth, but we have the sacred tenets of which we follow. Yeah. And we build off of that, and we come together on so many similar things and viewpoints that's why we have such a tight-knit crew.
Yeah.
But it is nothing but love. When we get together for a ritual, like it flows together just beautifully and stuff like that. Like we have this understanding. And so I think and that's that. But it's like, at the end of the day, people are going to make assumptions until they're actually, you're out, you got the circle.
Yeah.
And then you got this circle, right?
Yeah.
And then people will walk around the circle and look over shoulders and they'll be like, oh my God, that's what that is. Yeah. But yet they do so without ever stepping inside the circle. And if like, you actually stepped inside the circle and understood things to a degree, then you really have no weight on the matter, because your perception is your reality. And if your perception is only like from a distance away, then that's what you're going to think. And that's unfortunate for you.
We humans, we like to instantly judge and jump to things, even if, we don't know about them. I appreciate you talking about it, man, because it was interesting for me to learn and research through it. And, like what you do, like your actions and your goal, what you're pursuing is definitely commendable, man. So I hope that's what people judge you on, what you're saying, what you're doing, and what you do day to day.
Actions are what matters most, man.
So that brings me to, you're a man of many hats, like you've talked about the brand, school, family, podcast, training, teaching, all that stuff. But Joe Adams, hold on. I am trying to learn the drums. So Joe Adams, what is your relentless pursuit as the man who started it all, behind it all? What's your relentless pursuit?
Obviously just at simple business wise, growth and impact. So keep growing, bigger impact, impact, and just watch that forever, just blow up, until the end, and like, there's no end vision for that. It's just the vision constantly grows. So to me, that's plain and simple what I'm trying to do here. And personally, that's all, like, I take that personal too, because this is, to me, it's like a creative work and it's art and it's where my passion's at. But I think personally, just being the best, like, no matter what, setting an example as a father and husband, being the best, most loving, loyal husband I can be to my wife, and instilling that confidence in her to do the same with me, and she does without a doubt. But being just an excellent husband and never falling short there. And then fatherhood, just being, the best father I can. I remember my boy Jesse, he was like, Joe, man, like, no matter what, bro, he was like, the most amazing thing you do, and he's like, you can always own this. He was just like, I had never seen that kind of love towards a child. And not just like, every parent loves a child, but though, like, the amount of intention and energy you pour into that, like the way it's directed is like anything I'd ever seen. Like, I'd hate to have to compete with that in a way. Does that make sense? And, dude, like, honestly, that put me in tears, because that to me is, if somebody else recognized that, that's the best compliment I could ever receive.
Makes you feel good, for sure.
So yeah, I never want to let my little family down, man. That's my world. And, yeah,
I'm not worried about this kid, Joe, because, I feel like I was telling you earlier about my buddy John and how, like, just his cool parenting stuff, but I'll say you're another one, man, that stand-up guy, like raising your kid and encouraging them to travel, or like pushing through obstacles and overcoming obstacles in life and working hard and excelling. Like, no, man, I ain't worried about that kid at all. No. They're gonna get some great parenting over the years, you know. So
That's the hope, man.
I like you mentioned that. And then the business, the growth and impact thing, man, that's genius, and that leads to, like you said, after your wreck, like wanting to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like your nature changed a little. Like maybe before, you've always been this person, of course, but maybe helping other people wasn't the first thing, like pre-wreck.
I think it was more so like growing the brand and like doing that in unison, but I think it's more dedicated to that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's doing it. It's doing it, man. I after my episode, had somebody reach out and say, you know, like they had, you know, one had said that they were making some life changes.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that. That's cool.
This is a person I look at that don't need life changes from the view that I'm looking at. But yeah, they did, and then other people have illness or injury, and they're mad about it, and sitting there being angry about it. But they're like, hey, I want to deal with this now and adapt and push and work, and so it's making a big impact, dude. Like, thanks, so bro. I like that growth and impact. Family's what it's all about. That's what it all comes down to, you know. But anything else you want to hit on today? I do have a suggestion after you wrap up, if you got anything.
I think I'm good. I think that was, you know, it's going to be a longer episode, but I think we were able to get in everything we needed to, man. And there's going to be things that come up in the future. Yeah. And, you know, people, hey, feel free to, if you're interested in it, like reach out and be like, hey, talk about this. I'd be more than happy. Yeah.
That would be good for sure. And like I said, man, I've liked reconnecting with you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Had fun coming these 4 times. I'm going to learn the drums.
And I'm going to learn guitar really well.
And then we're going to have a jam session. We need to come up with a band name. So, yeah, get a good band name going.
Okay, I got a couple ideas already.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, I do like that.
But, you know, you have so many awesome guests and stuff. Something I would say, hey, I'm happy to come back anytime. I drive by here all the time, and you're a good dude. But, you know, you see, like, different people, you start, the researcher in me, you start hearing, like, oh, you know, Dr.G mentioned that, and then the ultra marathon guy mentioned it. Like, you start hearing things, want to have a session focusing on a topic.
Yeah.
You know, like mental toughness or anxiety or whatever, man. You just let me know.
Yeah, a lot of these things we could take, like, run with for sure.
Yeah, and break down and make just a session about it where, you know, people talking.
Hell yeah.
But heck yeah, man, I've enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Focus on that guitar because
it's on.
I'll hit you up. Yeah, Rolling Thunder. We already got a name. We're on our way.
Hell yeah, man. I'm stoked for it. Dr. G, thank you so much for taking the time, doing this, showing up, being consistent, and I'm grateful for you, forever grateful. And dude, can't wait to see you progress with the drums. And start to get this out there. You know, awesome at the interviewing process. So thank you for doing that. You know, I find you to be extremely dependable and a good friend. So thank you. And I'm stoked for what's ahead, man.
Yeah. Love you. Appreciate it.
Love you too, man. Y'all take care.
Nice.